Alright guys, let's talk dragons. So some of you guys might have heard that in January, the dragons from Draconian Era are going to be coming back. And for a lot of people, that might be daunting, because we have to codex every single dragon in order to see the next one. So I thought I'd go over the concepts of codexing here. These are meant to be blanket useful for anyone trying out codexing. I highly suggest trying out codexing anything later than tier 7 or higher, but honestly, you could start at any tier. You do need to know a few things going into it, and if you have the right loadouts, this can actually be quite fun, a little bit of a puzzle, and fun to give it a shot. So I'll briefly talk about each one of these as we go, and let's start. I have no script, but I do have little notes, so I apologize if I forget anything. Let me know. But there are 4 parts to a codex entry. And I will use Medea here as a good tell for this because she has all of these. So the first part is elemental, what I like to call elemental interactions. These are resistances, immunities, and weaknesses. And all of these need to be found out by hitting the mob or boss or raid with said element. Now, multiple elements can be codexed at the same time, so if you are an Omnimancer who knows Omnimancy spells that use 2 elements at the same time, or you're 245 or 250 and you know Ultima from Deity, those codex all of those elements together. Keep in mind there's a grand total of 9 elements. There are the 4 faction elements that you see right here: water, fire, lightning, and earthen. There's also 4 secondary elements: holy, dark, dragon, and arcane. And then there's also physical. Ultima does not cover physical, so if you need physical, don't use Ultima. The easiest way to tell what elements you have when you're going into a loadout is to look at the category that they're underneath. These typically have all fire spells, all water spells, etc. Omnimancy, it doesn't really tell you the elements for them. You're just going to have to trust what you read. And Ultima covers all 8 faction and secondary elements. For physical, most of what you'll be looking for is in the skills tab. You're going to be looking for anything that says physical here, quite like these guys all say their element here. Some of these are actually elementless, meaning they will not actually deal any element damage, and that is most common in spells. So things like your charge skills like Sorrow and Necrosis will not do any elemental interactions. They will do normal damage no matter what, all the time, regardless of immunities, resistances, stuff like that. They don't pose any progress to codexing, but they're useful if you just want to do damage. In terms of Medea, back to Medea here, for the second part, which is abilities. This is pretty simple to get the idea of. You just need to let them use all of them. Now you'll see here that Medea actually has Second Chance. This is more of a passive rather than an actual ability. You don't need to wait for something like that to rock. That is something that you'll get actually right at the start alongside some other things here like family, rarity, and terrain. We don't talk about those because those are free. You pretty much get them for encountering the monster and that's it. Same thing goes with any passive type abilities that these guys have. But all in all, you'll need to have the mob, boss, or raid use all of the skills that they have in their abilities list in order for you to codex them all. If you miss one, you'll see some question marks there. Unfortunately, I have the first world problem of having every single complete codex entry, so I can't show you the question marks. But you'll see them if you have any incomplete codex entry. Some moves do take a lot longer to proc, and some notable ones include Coup de Grace 2 from from our good friends Arisen Balin and Finesse. These are just skills that just are rare Basically, all you need to do is have some sort of skill or skills that don't use a lot of damage or don't do any damage. So think of something like a buff skill or a ward skill, or heck, you could even spam small health potions if you have a lot of those. Just something to, stall, wait for the mob or boss or raid to use their skills. There are some mobs, bosses, etc., that have Divine Bastion actually, and they might be known for using Divine Bastion a lot. And a quick tip to get yourself or get that mob or boss or raid to stop using Divine Bastion is to get yourself to low health, specifically low health, typically around maybe 10, 15, 20%. I don't know the exact number, but around then the boss, I had this problem when I was codexing Medea, will stop using Divine Bastion as often and start using more attacking type moves. So if you are stuck with the mobber boss using Divine Bastion over and over again, get yourself to low health. You can hide under some ward with Divine Bastion or high ward coverage. Both work pretty fine. If you are below tier 8, you don't need to worry about this. I believe the earliest mob or boss that has Divine Bastion is Queen Dokofar, and she just showed up in December. The other type of move that I think I should cover is healing type moves, so health or ward healing moves typically. Those will be the easiest to proc out when they have a low amount of that thing. So typically you'll see something like, I know early tiers might have an issue with Demon Knight using Great Heal when he reaches low HP, or Mend Wall when he reaches low ward. In order for these to be used or be in their pool of, oh hey, I should probably use this, they'll need to be at low health or low ward. Again, the exact percentages for these I don't quite know, but best goal for these guys is to try and get them as low as possible without obviously draining them or killing them. In terms of ward, you don't need to worry about that. Just if you want, you can make it hit 0. In health, don't kill it. A dead thing can't use moves. But another thing that can use moves, actually, is a monster or boss that can't move. Mobs or bosses that are asleep or stunned or blighted and they didn't move, their move that they were going to use will still actually be logged. At least this was the case a little while ago. This should still be a thing, so if you wanted to, you could pack something like Sleep Dart or Stun Dart, or something that uses a move. Another thing that I thought I'd cover is buff moves. A monster will not use a move that gives it a buff it already knows, and this is really well known if you've ever encountered a Fomorian Druid. It knows a bunch of buff skills, and this is where something like Sleep Dart would really come in handy. So it buffs a lot of different things here. Mimic's Mischief can buff attack and magic, but so can Jin's Talent, and so can Bear's Might. So after using one of those, it will not use the other. So a great way to counteract this is to simply use Sleep Dart to fix that for yourself. Now in terms of the third part, that is drops. These are pretty straightforward. I don't think I need to talk a lot about these drops. Pretty much, you just need to get them all. Obviously, luck boosters will help you with any drops against anything besides raids. Raids do not receive, boosts. So if you're going for boss or monster drops, stack up as much luck as you can. The luck cap is 400%. This is a 4 times bonus. So anything higher than that will not boost your luck any further. Also, max luck does not guarantee that an item will drop every single time. Just keep that in mind. It might take a couple tries. But if you're fighting mobs and bosses, chances are you're fighting them in a renewable way. So just keep at it. In terms of Medea, Swan Song was not that difficult to get. You either got it on your first or your second Medea. Fairly straightforward. This part, however, the fourth part is typically considered the hardest part of codexing. This one's a little bit more daunting, and it's especially daunting looking at this one for Medea. So instead, I am actually going to pull up Lotam. This is the first dragon you'll have to codex. Each status immunity shows up here. Basically, same deal with abilities and immunities and drops and stuff. You need to see the monster or boss or raid be immune to these status effects. And they will appear in the same order every single time. A common place to find something with a lot of immunities is raids. If you want to practice doing a Codex entry, I highly suggest trying something out like a Kingdom raid, something like Drakon or Fomor. Gives you a little bit of experience on, getting through the rhythm of, okay, I need to get moves. Okay, I need to get drops. Okay, I need to get status immunity. But if you'll take a look here, you'll see that all of these have the same order every single time, and that's poison, eating, and burning, frozen, paralysis, followed by rot, blind, asleep, stun, blight, and petrify. These are the common 11 status conditions that you'll see in just about any boss that has some sort of stat down, or has any sort of debuff. I kind of just alluded to what the other type would be. Any stat debuffs or buffs. I'm trying to find one that might have one. Anything that has like stat debuff immunities. Whoops. There's probably one around here that I'm just not noticing. Pumpkinhead. Frozen Pumpkinhead we'll go with. He has some status immunities, and just like status, he has some stat down immunities, and just like status immunities, you'll need to proc those in any way, shape, or form. If you're doing dragons, you don't need to worry about this, because the stat downs aren't, present. But typically you'll see these common 11. There's actually a 12th one specifically for Medea. That is a stasis immunity. As of right now, the recording of this right before 2023, Medea is the only thing immune to stasis. So that's a little fun fact. In order to get all of these, and this is why I suggest you start at tier 7, one of the most powerful moves for this is Great Mimic's Mischief. Great Mimic's Mischief will proc just about all of these guys. It'll proc, let me find the full list. It'll proc poison, bleeding, burning, frozen, paralysis, rot, blind, and blight. If you want, you can pack miasma also if you are just missing poison and blight and you want to get something that has a little higher of a chance. You can pack that as well. But to save a lot of skill slots, Great Mimic's Mischief, which is gotten from the Archdruid class at level 160. So if you're level 160 or higher and you have the Archdruid class, highly suggest popping that in your loadout. Saves you a bunch of slots. The other two statuses that it doesn't really cover are Sleep and Stun, so you can just have Sleep Dart and Stun Dart. These are gotten from Rogue at level 45. So if you've played for, at least a couple hours, you should hopefully have this class. If not, it's a quick buy. Go ahead and pick that up. Sleep Dart and Stun Dart are very powerful inside and outside of Codexing. The other part that we need to cover is Petrify. Petrify is a little bit of a different one because it's Petrify. It's a little bit of a more overpowered status condition. It can be gotten in a few different ways. My personal preference is by pet, especially if you're doing a lot of different runs. If we go into pets here, one of the most common ways is Gargoyle Pet. It has a flat 3% chance to use the skill Petrify, and I think that's a pretty reasonable ask. You're going to have to do quite a little bit of stalling, and if you're stalling for moves, you might as well also stall for a Petrified proc. The other type that you can have is a skill that I believe you also learn in Archdruid, is Cockatrice Breath. It has also a 3% chance of petrification. If you use it once every turn, it is a little bit costly in the mana department, so take that with a grain of salt. The other type is different items that you can put in your loadout. I don't have a Stone Dagger, but Stone Dagger is a notable one. Another one is the offhand Bag of Tricks. Bag of Tricks can proc just about any status condition that you need for Codexing, including Drenched. You don't need Drenched for any sort of Codex entries, but hey, it's Drenched. Can't go wrong. But yeah, just packing Great Mimic's Mischief, Sleep Dart, and Stun Dart is my typical loadout for Codexing. And then if I need a Petrify immunity that happens significantly less than the other ones, I will bring a Gargoyle Pet, or I'll swap. So those are the 4 different types of parts you'll need for your Codex. Now let's talk about some just general Codex information before we talk about Dragons specifically. So in terms of getting progress on these guys and double checking how they will go through things, when you leave a battle and then re-enter it, I'm thinking mostly when you leave a dungeon, when you flee a dungeon and then re-enter it, your codex will be updated with the things that you've just gotten. So say you procced out a move or a status effect, that will proc it for, or that will log it in the codex once you flee. Once the battle is, left or ended, then that codex will be updated. But while you're mid-battle, the codex will not update right away. So if you're doing this in parties, that might warrant a restart, but it's up to you. Speaking about parties, fellow party members' contributions will not go towards the codex. So if you have a buddy and he knows Sleep Dart, and he uses Sleep Dart on the boss, that will not log a sleep immune for you. Obviously, if the enemy uses a move, it will proc it for everybody, but if you're using something that gets you info, you will not log it for other things. This is also including summons. This is very important. Summoners will not get codex progress from their summons. This is unfortunate. This might be a bug, but as of right now, summons do not give codex progress to their summoners. The other thing you can do is you can look at the complete codex entry for what you need to find in order to, plan out some sort of plan of attack. And the easiest way to do this is to use a bot or to go on the Orna guide and take a look at their complete codex entries. Right now, I think the most common way is the RAR bot. You can use the !codex command and then put in the name of the thing that you're trying to codex, and it'll give you a picture of their completed codex entry. So you can see all the things that you'll need, that you're missing, that you might want, things and stuff like that. Now onto the dragons specifically. I'm going to put a link in the description. That is a link to a completed codex entry for the first dragon. And this is going to be very useful, actually. It'll save you from putting in the full name of mobs and bosses and stuff. It will say Orna Dragon 1, and that will be the codex entry for Lotan, taken by yours truly. And then once you get all of these, you can simply change the number 1 to 2. And then once you obviously reload the page with that new URL, it will be the next dragon. If you keep doing this, you will get every single dragon that you need to codex. You'll see what they look like, you'll see what they have, what they might need. The first ones are very easy to get. Not a lot going on in the department. Weakness to dragon, some fire and lightning resistances, and some moves that you'll need to proc out. The drops Drake Blood will be very easy to get. I believe that is almost guaranteed, if not guaranteed. And the item that they have alongside of it is not a super difficult drop. These guys are very not uncommon to find in a Dragon Roost or a normal dungeon. So I highly suggest, just running dungeons. I believe Lotan can also spawn in Monster Remains. I do not know if Reitra can as well, but I do know Lotan definitely can. So if you're starting out and you don't have any dungeons nearby, and you have a lot of Monster Remains, and you're needing to use your Monster Remains, maybe you should use your Monster. In terms of partying with other people, the dragons that will show up in your dungeon are based off of the codex progress of the host specifically, and their tier. A common thing that has arisen lately is that people are actually using higher tier players to host for lower tiers in order to get higher tier event mobs. This is true. If you bring a tier 6 into a party battle with a tier 10 host, and that tier 10 has all of the event stuff available. All of those event things will be available in that gauntlet with the T6 in it. So the T6 can get things like Godforges. This might be useful if you want to Godforge, lower tier friends, wink wink. But if you don't have Codex progress, this can be used to encounter some dragons early if you want to get some harder ones out of the way. I will mention that some of the later ones do have Petrify immunity, stuff like Bash. I don't know when it starts off the top of my head, but I would believe it's somewhere around tier 8. Yep, the first one should be Ilyanka. The tier 8 one, there's a tier 5 one, a tier 6, followed by two tier 7s, and then a tier 8, 2 tier 9s, and 2 tier 10s. Are there 2 tier 9s? 2 tier 10s at least. There's a lot of dragons. In terms of pets for these events, you will only be able to see the pet version of a given boss after you codex the boss. So you will not be able to see Ilyanka in a bestiary until you fully codexed Ilyanka. So if you want to get Ymir as a pet, you should be sure to codex all of these guys. For lower tiers, if you are codexing before Great Mimic's Mischief, before the Holiness of Great Mimic's Mischief, I highly suggest picking up Sorcerer and or Dragoon. These guys will help you get your things before tier 7. The unstables from Sorcerer, namely Cataclysm and Fulmination, I believe, will get you the Rot status immunity that you'll need for Lotan, as well as the Paralysis immunity that you'll need for Vritra. These will get you as far as you need feasibly in your tier. Once you hit tier 7, we'll also need to cover the base of Xaltis, which needs Frozen and Blight. Frozen can be gotten from the Ice Unstable, and Blight can be gotten from Blight Strike from the Dragoon class, which is tier 5. Blight Strike has a pretty decent chance to cause Blight. Even if you are a caster, using physical skills is a good idea. This is another point that I thought I'd bring up, is stalling. Especially if you're trying to get stuff like status immunities or interactions. If you bring skills that are, not the same type as your attack damage. For example, if you are a melee person, bring magic spells. If you are a magic person, bring as many melee spells as you can. I don't know how many there are in the space of elemental stuff in terms of lower tiers, but I believe Paladin covers a wide variety of these guys. Yeah, it covers 6 of them. Alright, I will leave the link to the Codex entries in the description. I wish you guys the best of luck in terms of codexing these guys, and I hope it doesn't seem as daunting as it actually is. Once again, if you want to test yourself before dragons fully drop, I highly suggest trying out a Kingdom Raid. It'll get you some status immunity practice, get you some drops and baiting for abilities practice. If you don't get these while you're waiting for status immunities, you can practice some of that stuff. But raids are some of the harder Codex entries to get. If you nab these guys, then I'm sure you'll be fine with the bosses. Alright, wish you guys the best of luck, and take care.